You know that feeling when you're just sitting on your couch watching a Netflix show in English?
Oh yeah, best feeling.
Right.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a fast-paced comedy or like a dense drama and you have the subtitles completely turned off.
You're just soaking it in.
Exactly. You're following every joke, every plot twist, and you just feel like an absolute genius. You think, I've got this. My English is amazing.
Definitely. Until, well, the next day.
Yes. The very next day, you're at work or maybe you're traveling, and someone asks you a simple, basic question out loud. And suddenly, well, nothing.
Just a complete blank.
Your brain just flatlines, your mouth freezes, and all those words you definitely know just, they refuse to come out.
It is incredibly universal.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is the single most common frustration in language learning.
It really is.
You have this massive gap between what you can understand and what you can actually say. And, well, it feels like a personal failure when it happens.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking on this exact problem. Because if you have ever thought, I understand English perfectly, but I just can't speak it, I want to reassure you right now.
Yeah, you are not broken.
Exactly. You are not bad at languages, and you're not failing.
It's a gold mine of information.
It is. And our mission today is to explain exactly why your brain and your mouth disconnect and give you a highly practical, step-by-step roadmap to break through this intermediate plateau.
What's really fascinating here is that this gap between comprehension and production is not a character flaw.
Right.
It's not a lack of willpower or intelligence.
Yeah.
It is a well-documented biological and cognitive phenomenon.
Yeah.
Your brain is actually doing exactly what it was designed to do, just, in the wrong context.
That is so relieving to hear.
And the best part is, once you understand the physical mechanics of why you freeze, you can systematically hack the system to unfreeze yourself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to solve the freeze, we first need to understand that recognizing a language and actually producing it, well, they feel like the same skill to most of us, but they really aren't, are they?
Not at all. They are entirely different cognitive processes. Linguists basically divide language into two buckets.
Okay, two buckets.
Yeah, passive or receptive vocabulary and active or productive vocabulary.
So the passive one is what we just take in.
Exactly. Passive vocabulary includes the words you recognize when you hear or read them. Active vocabulary is the words you can retrieve from your memory and physically use in real time when you speak or write.
And I'm assuming that passive bucket is like significantly deeper for almost everyone.
Oh, much deeper. For most learners, their passive vocabulary is 3 to 5 times larger than their active one.
Wow, 3 to 5 times.
Yeah. And that's true even for native speakers, by the way. You will always understand more words than you can naturally say.
That makes a lot of sense.
To give you some benchmarks from our research, about 1,000 active words will get you through basic survival conversations.
Okay, so that's the baseline.
Right. Then 2,500 active words mean you can communicate comfortably in daily life, and 5,000 active words push you into fluent, nuanced discussion territory.
Okay, so if I understand 10,000 words on Netflix, but I can only actively retrieve 500 when I open my mouth, I'm going to feel completely stuck.
You're going to feel incredibly frustrated.
For sure. And I noticed in the research this concept from Esselbase called the silent period. It describes this natural developmental stage where learners just absorb language before they produce it.
That's the core of it, yeah. We see it all the time with children learning their first language. They spend a year or more just listening.
Right, taking it all in.
Exactly. They are mapping meaning to sounds, noticing patterns, and building the foundation before they ever speak a full sentence. And that happens with second languages, too.
I mean, I get the silent period for toddlers, but adults have often been studying grammar for years. Shouldn't we be past the silent phase by now?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah, it's like knowing the rules of tennis perfectly from watching TV, but expecting to serve a perfect ace the first time you hold a racket. But wait, if I've been studying for years, why am I still in the silent period? It feels a bit like an excuse to just keep watching YouTube instead of actually practicing.
That is a completely fair point, but it comes down to the environmental pressure we put on adults. Children are allowed to be in a judgment-free silent period for as long as they need.
That's true. When a 2-year-old says something incorrectly, we clap and encourage them.
Exactly. But adults face immense pressure to perform immediately and perfectly. In adult language classes, or especially in the workplace, silence is often misread as a lack of effort or lack of intelligence.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's brutal.
It is. So adults are forced out of their silent period prematurely. They either withdraw completely, or they play it safe and use overly simple language just to survive the interaction.
So they just get trapped in this safety zone.
Yes. And there's a powerful linguistic theory here called the comprehensible output hypothesis, developed by researcher Meryl Swain.
Okay, what does she find?
Well, she studied French immersion students who had spent years listening and reading. They had near-native comprehension, but their speaking skills were surprisingly weak.
Because they weren't practicing output.
Exactly. Her conclusion was that just absorbing input, no matter how much of it you consume, is not enough to trigger true language acquisition. You have to produce language under pressure to actually notice the gaps in your knowledge and force your brain to close them.
So we absolutely have to speak to get better. But if we know we need to practice output, why does it feel like our own bodies are betraying us?
It really does feel that way.
I was looking through the neurolinguistic studies on Wikipedia in our research, and it seems like this freeze isn't just you forgetting a word, it's a full-blown physical reaction.
It is. It's a phenomenon known as xenoglossophobia, or basically foreign language anxiety.
Xenoglossophobia. Wow.
Yeah. When you are put on the spot to speak and you feel the pressure of an audience, even if it's just a cashier at a coffee shop, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, fires a threat signal.
Wait, really? It literally treats speaking English like a survival threat, like a physical danger.
Precisely. The brain processes social rejection, embarrassment, and judgment using the exact same neural pathways as physical pain.
That is wild.
So, your amygdala floods your system with cortisol, the stress hormone. Blood physically flows away from your highly evolved thinking brain and toward your primal survival centers.
So you're literally in fight or flight.
Yes. This surge of cortisol inhibits your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for executive functions like, planning sentences and organizing thoughts.
And it also impacts the hippocampus,
Ah.
right? Which is incredibly frustrating because that's exactly the part of the brain I need to fetch the vocabulary words I want to use.
You hit the nail on the head. The cortisol actively blocks the retrieval pathway in the hippocampus. This creates a physiological mental block.
Like a literal wall in your brain.
Exactly. You know the word, you can almost feel it on your tongue, but the stress hormones are literally physically blocking your brain from accessing it.
That explains so much. I mean, it's not a lack of knowledge. It's a biochemical roadblock. And it gets worse because then we start judging ourselves.
Oh, the self-judgment is huge.
The sources mention this thing called the monitor hypothesis. Basically, as we try to speak, there's a voice in our head criticizing every single word, checking the grammar rules we memorized years ago.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Right. It's like a tightrope walker looking down at their feet mid-step. The self-consciousness itself is what actually makes you fall.
That's a great way to look at it. Fluency requires the monitor to quiet down. When you add that intense self-criticism to the already heavy cognitive load of speaking, the brain simply gets overwhelmed.
Because it's already doing so much.
Right. Think about what your brain is juggling in that moment. You have to find the vocabulary, build the grammar structure, monitor your pronunciation, track the listener's facial expressions to see if they understand, and plan your next sentence.
And on top of all that juggling, most intermediate learners add a massive extra burden, the translation tax.
Oh, the translation tax, yes.
I was reading about this in our sources, and it really clarifies why conversations feel so exhausting. When a native speaker answers a question, it's a two-step process. You hear the question, you speak the answer.
Simple and direct.
But a language learner is doing 5 steps. You hear the English, you translate it into your native language in your head, like Punjabi or Spanish. You formulate your response in your native language, you translate that response back into English, and then you try to speak.
It is the single biggest hidden tax on your speaking speed.
Huh.
By the time you get through those 5 steps, the natural rhythm of the conversation has moved on.
Yeah, the moment is gone.
Exactly. Your working memory just tops out and stalls.
So it's like trying to play a high-speed game of Tetris, but every time a block drops, you have to mentally translate its color into another language before you can rotate it.
That is a brilliant comparison.
And eventually, the blocks pile up, your working memory crashes, and it's game over.
That is exactly what is happening neurologically. And here is the real danger of that crash. Every time you choose silence to avoid that terrible, uncomfortable feeling of cognitive overload, your brain learns something.
What does it learn?
It registers that silence kept you safe. Nothing bad happened. You didn't get embarrassed. The tiger didn't eat you.
Oh, wow.
Over time, silence becomes a deeply practiced survival habit. Your brain actively rewards you for not speaking English.
Wow. So avoidance is literally self-reinforcing. We are training ourselves to freeze.
Unfortunately, yes.
Let's pivot a bit because beyond the brain chemistry and the Tetris game of translation, freezing is also deeply tied to our sense of identity. The research dives into this, and it's surprisingly emotional.
It is very emotional. Speaking a new language often makes you feel like a smaller, less competent version of yourself.
Yes, because in your native language, you are a fully formed adult. You are smart, you are funny, you understand nuance, you have professional expertise.
Right, you're confident.
But in English, your limited active vocabulary forces you into these really simple, basic expressions. You sound like a child. It creates this intense identity crisis where you feel ashamed because the simple words coming out of your mouth do not match the complex intelligence in your head.
The linguistic research connects this to concepts like linguistic insecurity and stereotype threat.
Okay, stereotype threat.
Yeah. Learners, especially those in high-stakes professional environments, might feel an immense pressure that their grammar mistakes or their accent will cause people to doubt their competence. They feel their mistakes will confirm negative stereotypes or lower their social status.
So the stakes feel incredibly high.
Exactly. Which, of course, just spikes the cortisol again.
It's a vicious cycle. But if we move from the emotional to the physical, well, the mouth itself is literally untrained, isn't it?
That's a great point.
I mean, if my mouth is out of shape, reading more grammar books isn't going to help. I assume I need to train my mouth like a muscle.
That is a crucial realization. Pronunciation and speaking are fundamentally motor skills. They're not just mental exercises.
Wait, really? Motor skills.
Yes, your tongue, your lips, your jaw, your vocal cords, they have spent your entire life moving to the specific physical rhythm and sound patterns of your native language.
So I literally have the wrong muscle memory. Even if I know exactly how an English sentence should sound, my facial muscles are defaulting to my native language's movement.
Precisely. You have to treat speaking like going to the gym. Knowledge does not transfer automatically to motor skills.
That makes total sense.
You can ace a written grammar test and still stumble over a basic spoken sentence because your mouth has never physically rehearsed the movements required to produce those specific sounds in sequence.
So how do we fix it?
The only way to build this motor pathway and overcome that identity gap is a massive shift in your study habits. You have to flip the traditional 80-20 rule.
Meaning, stop doing 80% passive input like watching videos, listening to deep dives, reading textbooks, and start doing way more active output.
Yes, you need your mouth to start physically making English sounds for longer than it currently does each day.
Okay, so we've mapped the obstacle course. The brain is overloaded by translation, the amygdala is triggering a panic response, the identity is threatened, and the physical mouth is out of shape.
It sounds like a lot when you list it all out.
It does. But how do we actually fix this? We need tools that reduce the cognitive load. And the sources offer two incredible safety nets for this: lexical chunks and time buyers.
Lexical chunks are game changers. Researchers who study massive databases of everyday conversations found that proficient speakers do not build sentences word by word.
They don't.
No, they rely heavily on chunks, which are fixed groups of words that naturally go together.
Our sources point out that native speakers use these for 30 to 70% of their natural speech. This means instead of trying to fetch 5 isolated words from your hippocampus, which we know might be blocked by cortisol, you just fetch one single block of words.
It drastically reduces the Tetris blocks you have to manage.
Yeah.
Give me an example of how a learner might use this.
So instead of translating word for word in your head to say, the thing that is true at the final part of the day, you just learn the prepackaged chunk.
Right.
You just say, at the end of the day, or as far as I know, or to make a long story short, you don't think about the grammar of those phrases, you just deploy them as a single unit. It saves so much brain power.
And importantly, while your mouth is physically deploying that prepackaged chunk, your brain has a split second to breathe and plan the next part of the sentence. It buys you processing time.
And if you still need more time to process, you use the second safety net, time buyers.
Yes, time buyers are crucial.
When your brain blanks, the worst thing you can do is panic and freeze in dead silence. You can gracefully buy yourself 3 to 5 seconds.
Time-buying phrases from places like Math English Academy are an essential part of natural communication. Even native speakers use them constantly.
Like what?
Things like, that's a great question. Let me think for a second. Or, if I'm not mistaken. Or even just, Could you please rephrase that?
It completely flips the dynamic. If someone asks me a tough question at work and I just stare at them silently, I look panicked and incompetent.
Exactly. The silence is awkward.
But if I nod and say, from my experience, I'd say, suddenly I look incredibly thoughtful and in control. And secretly, I'm just giving my hippocampus 3 extra seconds to fetch the vocabulary words.
You are actively managing the flow of the conversation rather than being a victim of it. Our practical guides emphasize that tracking your progress using these specific chunks and time buyers will rapidly accelerate your conversational confidence.
So we shouldn't just wing it.
No, don't just vaguely try to speak better. Try to actively deploy 3 new time buyers today.
So we have the tools to reduce the load in a real conversation. But how do we actually get the physical reps in beforehand without triggering that amygdala panic alarm? We need low-stakes reps.
Yes, low stakes.
Let's walk through what the sources call the 15-minute daily fix.
The absolute key here is lowering what linguists call the affective filter.
The affective filter.
Basically, your emotional barrier to learning. When stress is high, the filter goes up and blocks learning. We need to lower it by creating environments where the cost of making a mistake is absolutely zero. And the most empowering part of this is you do not need a human partner to start.
That takes so much pressure off. Let's logically connect some of the best exercises from the guides to the specific problems we discussed earlier. To bypass that brutal 5-step translation tax, Practice Me and Ablino highly recommends self-narration.
It's so effective.
And it is so simple. You just narrate your day out loud to an empty room. The coffee is hot. I need to wash these dishes. I am walking to the door.
It sounds incredibly simple, maybe even silly, but think about why it works. It builds a direct pathway from concept to spoken English, completely removing the social pressure.
Because no one is watching.
Right. You see the coffee, you feel the heat, and you say the English words. You are training direct concept to English mapping, proving to your brain that you don't always need to translate from your native language first.
Next, to force actual active retrieval rather than just passive recognition, we have what linguists call close exercises. Basically, fill in the blank sentences where you force your brain to supply the missing English word.
The direction of your practice matters immensely here. If you look at an English word and just translate it to your native language, you're only practicing passive recognition.
Which we already know doesn't help with speaking.
Exactly. You have to flip it. Look at a sentence in your native language or a sentence with a blank space and force yourself to produce the English word. You have to pull it from your own brain.
Then, to deal with the identity crisis and the fear of judgment, the guides suggest AI conversations.
Oh, this is a great modern tool.
Yeah, you use an AI voice tutor on your phone. You're simulating spontaneous output, but because it's a machine, there's zero social cost if you completely butcher a sentence.
None at all.
It forces you to listen, process, and retrieve in real time, but the AI doesn't judge your accent or your grammar. It lowers that affective filter to 0.
That is a phenomenal use of technology. But if we want to talk about the ultimate exercise for the motor problem, the physical mouth training we discussed earlier, we have to talk about shadowing.
Shadowing. I've heard of it, but honestly, it always sounded like just mindless parroting.
Does it actually help you find words faster, or is it just for sounding nice?
It goes way deeper than just sounding nice. It physically trains the articulatory muscles. Shadowing engages multiple language processing systems simultaneously.
How does it work?
You play a short audio clip of a native speaker, maybe a podcast or a scene from a TV show, like Steve Carell or a TED Talk. You listen actively, and then you repeat exactly what they're saying simultaneously or just a split second behind them. Oh, so you're talking over them.
Basically, yeah. You mimic their exact rhythm, their word stress, their intonation, and how they link words together, like physically practicing how want to blends into wanna.
Wait, so it's literally like singing along to your favorite song in the car.
Yes.
You don't have to invent the lyrics, and you don't have to worry about the grammar. You just have to train your mouth to hit the notes at the exact speed of fluent English.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
It is physical training for your articulators. 5 to 10 minutes of shadowing a day can do more for your natural rhythm and pronunciation than hours of reading a textbook.
That is amazing.
You are building the muscle memory so that when your brain finally finds the right word during a stressful conversation, your mouth actually knows the physical movements required to say it smoothly.
Okay, let's bring this all together. If you are listening to this and you've been stuck on that intermediate plateau, frustrated that your active speaking doesn't match your passive understanding,
Which is completely normal.
Right, take a deep breath. It is not a sign of failure. It is simply a sign that you have been heavily training the recognition system and neglecting the production system.
And you can change that ratio today. Shift a significant portion of your study time strictly to spoken output.
Exactly.
Stop waiting until you feel perfectly ready to speak, because that day will never come through passive reading alone.
By using time buyers to give your brain a break, learning in pre-packaged lexical chunks instead of juggling single words, and doing low-stakes daily reps like self-narration and shadowing, you will conquer the freeze.
You definitely will.
Fluency isn't about perfection, it's about staying in the conversation and navigating the messy parts with confidence.
This actually raises an important final thought.
Right.
We spend so much energy avoiding mistakes because we view them as failures or social embarrassments, but I want to offer a paradigm shift.
Okay, what is it?
What if your hesitations, your stumbles, and your mistakes aren't actually embarrassments at all? What if they are simply the audible, real-time sound of your brain physically rewiring itself? Every time you stumble, endure the discomfort, and keep going, you are building a brand new neural pathway.
I absolutely love that. The sound of rewiring, it changes everything about how we view practice. So next time you're watching Netflix and you feel that false sense of perfect fluency,
Turn it off.
yes, turn it off. Stand up, look around your living room, and just start narrating your life to the walls. Make mistakes boldly, keep your voice out loud, and keep diving deep.